data to back up all sorts of amazing things on how to make your meetups a little bit better. So those of you who help organize meetups, go to different meetups, refresh. I mean, got a lot of them in this town. So, Victoria? Creative? Over here, I think.
How do I use computers? Right. How you doing tonight?
Good.
All right. Let's see if we can do some cool stuff here.
Are you trying to use the remote app?
I am. That's the spirit.
I tried to do that for my presentation. It's not working.
How many engineers does it take to work a slideshow? All right. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Awesome. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Fantastic. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Vitorio. This is a picture of me. Thanks for coming out tonight. I'm a designer here in town. This is what I do all day. And I'm here to talk with you about designing better meetups. Now by designing, I don't mean their websites. And please don't stop paying attention just because I said that. I mean designing the actual face-to-face interactions, the content that they talk to you about, the support they provide, all of those aspects that you actually are the reasons you show up and you participate in these things. And by meetups, I mean meetups in the broadest sense. If you've ever attended a user group, if you've ever attended a professional society meeting, if you've ever attended a networking happy hour, if you've ever gone to a lunch with people other than your coworkers, or attended a lecture or a talk at UT, or at a bar, all of these things are the kinds of things I'm talking about and how to make those things better for you. So I want to see a show of hands. How many people here have ever attended a local community event ever? Refresh counts. Yeah. All right. No. Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. All right. Put your hands down only if refresh is the only thing you ever attend. All right. So the one guy who put his hand down, I want to talk to you after this because you're missing out on stuff. All right. Hands down. So how many people in here, put your hands up, how many people in here help run or organize or help out with local community events like happy hours or meetups or anything like that? So a good sizable portion of you guys. All right, so it's really hard to get this information that I'm going to talk to you about out there. Austin's a small town, but it's also very private and kind of disconnected in a lot of ways. So if you like what I have to say tonight, I have a favor to ask you. Whatever meetup you go to next, you ask the organizer if they've heard about this stuff, and you point them in my direction. If you go to a meetup and it wasn't all that great, this is how that meetup becomes better. And if you go to a meetup and it was really fantastic, this is how you make sure it stays being really fantastic. You point them in my direction. So that's the big ask I have of you at the beginning of this. So now, what do I mean by better? I keep saying make things better, make things better. Better is whatever you need it to be. Maybe that's more attendees. Maybe that's more professional support. Maybe that's more free beer. Maybe that's more recruiters. Whatever it is, these things can help you in those goals. So, I have 4 things. I can see it here too. Awesome, okay. So I have 4 things to talk to you about, and I sure hope I remember what they are. The first thing is 10 things. And I would put it in my other hand, but I'm holding the iPod that doesn't work now with it. The first thing is 10 things you can do right now, starting tonight, to make your meetup better, both as an attendee and as a, this is hosed, both as an attendee Peter.
They want to choose a different app.
The second thing is a survey I'm going to talk to you about later. It's a survey you can take right now, starting tonight, that tells all of the organizers in town what you're interested in, where you live, where you work, what you are getting out of meetups, what you're not getting out of meetups, to help them put together better plans for you in this coming year. We're going to reset this. The third thing are these feedback forms. How many people here came to Refresh Austin last month? All right, so you remember filling out this form. We're going to do that again this month. And this form lets the organizers of these meetups find out exactly what it is you thought, exactly how they went, exactly how everything fared, almost immediately. We're going to pass this out in between my talk and the next talk, and then collect them from you at the end of the night. And the fourth thing is an essay. We'll get to the essay at the very end. But the essay talks about all of these things that I'm going to talk to you about at a broader scale, at the scale of all of the meetups in all of Austin, and of all of the cities that have groups like this one. Because the problems that we're going to talk about, the problems that you go to a meetup and you didn't like it, you go to a meetup and you didn't get what you wanted out of it, these are bigger problems than just once here in Austin. And that's what this essay is about. All right, so let's get into it. Let's talk about the 10 things you and the organizers of these meetups can do right now. The first one is you can change your location. How many people here live in South Austin? All right. How many people here work in South Austin? And if you work from home, put your hand down. Not so many of you now. All right. How many people live or work in either Central Austin, North Austin, or Northwest Austin? Everybody. I'm really sorry, South people. But to get the most people to show up, meetups should be Monday through Thursday evenings, somewhere Central, North, or Northwest. The reason is you want to hold them near people's commuting paths or their common travel routes. Can they bike there? Can they take the bus there? Is there parking nearby? Convenience is a huge factor in getting busy people or the less motivated people to attend. This means meetup right after work, but that are all the way in South Austin, are probably not a good idea. But that also means that meetups late in the evening that are downtown, not a good idea either, because everybody's already left. How about lunches? Fridays are okay for lunch, it turns out. But the rest of the week, not so much. And weekends for a professional meetup are pretty much out of the question. They're practically off limits for so many people because of family events. You can change your conflicts. How many people here have ever made a graphic that ended up on the web? A single pixel GIF counts. A button counts. All right, lots of it. Most of the time you have a graphic artist do that, right? And graphic artists have a professional society with regular meetings called AIGA. And there's an AIGA chapter in Austin. Graphic artists also have social networks where they go to swap work that they're doing and show their work off to each other. One of these is called Dribble. Anybody heard of Dribble? Lots of nodding? Great. Any artist with any sort of sense of professionalism is probably an active member of both. And yet, somehow, today's Tuesday, right? Somehow, the day after tomorrow, AIGA has a meeting, and so do the Austin Dribble users. At the same time, at the opposite ends of town. I just don't schedule events that conflict with other major related events. It sounds simple, but apparently it's incredibly difficult. The more general groups will have larger turnouts, inevitably, because people go where people are. And there are lots of people on Thursday night who would really benefit from attending the Dribble meetup, but they're not going to go at the expense of missing the bigger AIGA meetup. And the situation's reversed too. There are people who would love to go to AIGA, but they want to see their friends from Dribble. It splits the community in a really unhealthy fashion when this happens. And it happens all the time, making people choose sides like this. Now, if you're Austin PHP, and we have some Austin PHP people in the house, I think, maybe it's safe to schedule Austin PHP opposite, say, Austin Python, but you probably don't want to schedule it against Austin JavaScript. And maybe it's safe to schedule Austin WordPress at the same time as Austin Drupal. Maybe there's not an overlap there. But it's probably not safe to schedule either of them opposite Austin MySQL, because that's the database that powers both of them. And I have to say, not pandering to Ryan or anything, but whatever your group is, you probably don't want to schedule it opposite Refresh Austin. Because, no, seriously, Austin's a huge web town. 60% of people have attended Refresh Austin at some point. How many people here went to the Christmas party? Yeah, it's like the biggest show in town, right? What else can you do? You can change your speakers, which is why I'm going to cut my presentation short. How many people have ever attended a local event, and it turned out it was just kind of like a company selling something the whole time? Yeah, that sucks, doesn't it? You really want, like a handsome guy up there giving you really good advice and stuff like that instead. You want somebody really personable. People want people to give talks. And people want people to be on panels, not companies. You don't want to fill a panel with representatives all of the same company. That's not interesting anymore. Companies can sponsor the event, sure. TCG is sponsoring the bar tab tonight, and that's great. But there's not like 50 people from TCG flooding the stage trying to hard sell you something. And that's really the way you want it to work. Panels shouldn't be stocked completely with people from the same company, and you don't want your talks to sound like sales pitches. Other types of meetings are really useful too. Hands-on workshops, for example, are really great and really get people engaged. Groups hardly ever do them because they're a pain in the ass to set up, but the community loves them. One of the biggest turnouts Austin UPA has had in recent months is when they did live demos of eye tracking equipment. You don't get to play with that stuff every day. You can't see it in the photo, but this whole table is full, and then all the way around the rest of the back of the room is full. Field trips to related industries can be really interesting too. How many people here are Java developers?
Other way.
What?
You went backwards.
No, I know what I'm doing. This is not my first rodeo. Although it's the first time using Keynote. Yeah. How many people here are Java developers? I think it might be really interesting and really useful for a Java meetup to do an exploration of other languages on the JVM. It's the same stuff you kind of know, but it's new stuff. Super interesting to get a workshop based on that kind of stuff. You get to see other types of programming development. Artists get this really easy because artists can go to print shops, artists can go to architecture firms, artists can go to industrial designers. It's a little harder to figure out for developers, but it's totally valuable to get that other kind of experience. You can change your topics. It turns out lots of people still want refreshers in the basics. There's lots of new people constantly joining the industry, lots of people moving to town, and there's lots of new technologies coming out, which even if you're a senior practitioner, you still need to learn how to do from ground zero, from the basics. You don't necessarily always need to cater to the most senior level people with the most advanced topics on established stuff. By holding introductory sessions, you let new people feel more welcome, like they have something that they can learn without feeling like everything's over their head, and like they're not good enough to show up. And you can ask intermediate level people to give those presentations, which lets them feel like they're contributing something. Maybe you spent a weekend or two learning about Node, the JavaScript server system. Give an introduction to Node. All of the things you just learned over the last week, talk about them. By having organizers foster that kind of mid-level presentation, it lets people go from beginner to practitioner, and it gives you a milestone in your own work so you can see how much you're learning, how far you've gotten, and how far you have to go. A lot of these changes let you know where they stand. lets an individual know where they stand within the community and in their learning progress throughout their professional lives. And this keeps coming back around, as you'll see as we go further and further. You can change your marketing. Some of you are going, what marketing? Let's see a show of hands. How many people are here tonight because of all of the flyers that advertise Refresh Austin downtown? Yeah, I thought so. Let's try that a different way. How many people learned of Refresh Austin through the web design and development meetup on meetup.com? Exactly. You have to go where people are. Getting people to even learn your group exists is a huge trial. We all have someone we work with who's never attended Refresh Austin. We never see them here. They never come out. And maybe we think we're a little cooler than they are because we show up and they don't. But that's actually really bad for Refresh. Even if you don't like this person and don't want them here, as an attendee of Refresh, you should be inviting them every single month because it's not really about them. As I said earlier, Austin is a really private, like it's a small town, but it's also very private, and a lot of the groups in it are very insular. So all of the other web professionals that your coworker knows, they might not know about Refresh Austin either. And even if your coworker never shows up, they're going to mention it at some point or another to their peer group, and the word's going to spread that way. Using these network effects is super important. And for organizers, Refresh is a great example of taking advantage of those network effects as best as possible. They make it really easy to find out what's going on and where Refresh is happening. Because even if you don't know what these talks were about this month, you know where Refresh is going to be held because it's at the same place, at the same time, every single month. You can really count on it. Irregular schedules kill the momentum of a group. You really have to be reliable in your meetups. And you have to give people every possible way to find out about it, which is why the meetup.com present exists, even though it's not actively used to run the meetup itself. Don't wait for people to come to you. People are busy. Go to where they are. Post to mailing lists. Post to other people's mailing lists. Post to Twitter. Post on Facebook. Post to calendars. Send out text messages. Call people on the phone. Write them letters. Which leads to the next one. Change how proactive you are. 2 years ago, I ran a series of design workshops. And before every meeting, I text messaged every person who had ever attended and said, hey, you should come to the next one. And this seems super obnoxious right now as I talk about it. But it wasn't for you, because you're going to show up already. It's for the people who are sitting on the fence. It's for the people who may or may not have come in the first place, but that personal invitation is what draws them out of that rut of not showing up to these things. It's for the people who aren't used to attending stuff like this all the time. It's for the web developer, and everybody knows somebody like this. It's for the web developer who works with 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 other developers, and they talk about web development at lunch every single day, and they're this insular little group. And that group fulfills all of their needs for talking shop, so why would they ever come to Refresh? They get 6 opinions about CSS preprocessors at work every single day. They have no reason to come out. And you see this a lot with big enterprise departments and large interactive agencies. And you see what freelancers do, have core groups of freelancer friends and they all work together all the time in a co-working space. Personal invitations are often the only way to break people out of that insular work shell. You need to personally take somebody's hand and invite them to come along, and then when they come along you get to say, hey, can you bring a friend or a colleague with you too? You can change your value proposition. Why are people showing up? Why are you here tonight? And don't just say free beer. Is it to learn something? Is it to commiserate? People come for different reasons. But there's a big list of things that people don't come for, and that's because they don't know that they're missing it yet. I want you to think about your professional practice for a minute. Think about the things you know you should be doing in your job every day at work, like using source control, or writing. Don't laugh, some people don't. It's crazy. or writing unit tests, or doing code reviews, or having an agile workflow, or doing pair programming. Joel Spolsky has the Joel test, this is part of it, which is 12 questions that help you figure out how professional your development practice is. You can't fix people's workplaces from a meetup, but maybe there are things user groups can do to ameliorate some of these problems that people have in their workplaces. Give people things that they're missing at work. Provide a venue for code reviews. Throw a 2-hour pair programming workshop. It'd be like speed dating, except with unit tests and Hello World. Help people get... It's Valentine's Day. Help people get source control and bug tracking going for their personal projects. Like I said, you can't fix somebody's broken workplace, but you can show people the value in having really serious professional practices. And enough people know and understand that, then their workplaces will either have to change to accommodate them, or all of these people are going to find better jobs at workplaces that respect them more. And bad companies suffer, and good employees get better places to work. I don't see a downside of this. You can also change how people find that work. And speaking of finding new jobs, how many people here found the current job that they're in through one of those faceless networking events that are like grotesque business card free-for-alls? Nobody. That's because they don't work. Yeah. People don't find jobs that way. My parents always told me it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I'm just like, but I know everything. And that should be enough, right? No. Even in today, in this age of cheap social networking, it's still true. That one guy you met at the bar that time, who friended you on Facebook weirdly later, he's not going to help you find a job. Now Ryan, who you know through Refresh, you see him around town all the time, and he knows your name, and he knows your dog's name, and he knows your girlfriend's name, and you've been to his Halloween party. He'll help you find a job. As an attendee, one of the most valuable things you can do is simply talk to the people around you and get to know the other regulars. I'm going to do something super embarrassing now. Turn to the person to your left and introduce yourself. No, your other left.
Hey, all right, that's it.
Yeah.
I bet your name is Quiz.
Valentine's Day, every friend. I said, just introduce. I'm still up here. You guys. It's so lonely up here.
Turn to your left.
Yeah. All right. Even if you're not looking for a job right now, someone else is. And through these kind of introductions, that's how you remember that, oh, well, that guy I talked with last month, oh, he was looking for somebody. And wait, you just said that was your skill set. Oh, I should totally introduce you to. And then all of a sudden, you just helped somebody, and it's amazing. Personal introductions and real connections are the one single best way to get ahead in almost any scenario like this. And as an organizer, facilitating that is super important. Here's an example. Joel Bush. Anybody know Joel? Joel's a cool guy. He hosts a group called Regulars. And Regulars are just regulars at Mozart's every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Like clockwork, without fail. Even if I don't know that Joel will be there on a Friday morning, I know somebody will be. And those days that Joel is there, he knows everyone there. He knows their name and what they're interested in and what they're working on, and he's making all of these personal connections and all these one-to-one introductions that turn it from just coffee into a group of people helping each other. And that's what you want a meetup to be in those scenarios. And you can change how people feel. Personal connections are great, but they're not the only thing you need. People need validation too. They want to know that they're doing the right thing at the right time. And at some point, you outgrow the group of developers you're working with. That's why people come here looking for work too. You feel like you're not learning anything there anymore. And you start to get that bored itch that it's time to find something new. But how good are you really? how do you know for sure? Where do you stand compared to everybody else in town? The last thing you want to do is take an interview and find out that there's a whole ton of stuff you don't know, and now you don't feel so good about yourself. I talked about providing professional support earlier, and moral support goes hand in hand with that. Things like advanced classes and informal competitions can provide an external metric for you as to your standing within the community. Like, here's a comp. Write the HTML and CSS for it. No, I mean, no. When you take all of those people who do that exercise and you put all of their HTML and CSS next to each other, you can see how far everyone is in their professional development relative to everyone else. Like, this person obviously used this boilerplate, and this person has copy and pasted the same doc type since 1997. What's up with that? And this person never learned CSS. By doing this, you can get people to talk about their decisions, and then you can use that to help them figure out what they should be learning next. Finally, you can change why you're doing all of this. I've given you a lot of things you can do to make up your meetups. You can make your meetup better. But the one thing I can't give you is a reason to hold a meetup at all. The fact of the matter is, if you're showing up to meetups, you are already substantially more engaged than most of the people out there. There are a lot more people who don't come to these things than there are those who do. So as an organizer, you have to really think about what you're trying to get out of running this, because there's a lot of people you're just not going to reach. And as an attendee, you have to think about what you want your group to provide. Don't just stop showing up because you're bored or because they're not giving you what you need. It won't get any better that way, and you're not going to find it elsewhere. You need to talk with your organizers and talk with each other about that kind of stuff. So, that was the first thing, the 10 things. And you guys are all nodding along, and I really appreciate that, you know, acting like you're paying attention. And I threw out some facts and some numbers throughout that whole thing. And maybe you're wondering where all of that stuff came from. So, let's talk about that second thing, that survey. This time, last year, Refresh Austin, IXDA Austin, Austin UPA, and Austin UX sent out a survey asking a whole bunch of questions about where you live and where you work and what you do and are you happy and what are your skills and so on and so forth. And it looked like this. Anybody remember taking it last year? Oh, awesome. We've got a few people here. So we had a little over 100 responses to it, which for a local survey actually isn't bad, it turns out. And it told us tons of interesting information about the makeup of the Austin communities. Today I'm announcing two things. First, all of the data and analysis from 2011 is now available online. All of the things I just told you, those 10 things, came out of all of this analysis and all of the data mining that we did. You can take a look at the original survey, you can take a look at the summary of the data, the interpretation, the analysis, and you can use it to understand your attendees and your organizers and your groups right now. The second thing is I'm launching the new survey for 2012 right now. And I want you to take it. I want you to tell everyone you know about it. All of the web development and design professionals you know, all of the writers and all of the artists you know, all of the programmers you know, everyone should take it. Take it. Take it, take it, take it, take it, take it. Everyone needs to take the survey. It's been totally overhauled. It's like 10 questions shorter, which is nice. And it's going to tell us all of the stuff that I just told you about for 2012 and let us learn even more, which lets the organizers help make better meetups for you. And if you're a group organizer and you take the survey and you're like, I don't think this is asking the questions I really need to know, and it doesn't reflect the needs of your groups, there are instructions on how to run it yourself. Maybe you're not even from Austin and you're watching this on a video on the internet in the future. You can run the survey yourself and compare your city's responses to Austin's responses and see how cities and meetups start to stack up against each other. All right, so that was the second thing. That was the survey. And now the third thing, the feedback forms. So people were here last month. How about STC or UPA people? Anybody from those groups here? Yeah, a few people here. So they tried out the survey forms too. January's refresh meeting was the first one, was the trial run, and UPA and SDC used the final versions of the forms, and that's really exciting. This is a new feedback form we've designed that all the groups in town can use if they want, to collect information on how they're doing on a meeting-by-meeting basis. You fill it out. It's just a few questions. You fill it out yourself at some time over the course of your meetup, and you can tell the organizer exactly what you think, what they can do better, and they can learn exactly the sort of people who are showing up, and that really helps them plan for the future. At the end of this talk, you're going to get one. They're over there somewhere. And you should fill it out at the end of the next talk, and then hand it back before you leave. And then I'm going to tally them up in an automated Google form, and it's quick and easy, and then we will know exactly what you thought of me. I feel like there should have been a slide that says, "Do you like me, YN?" But here's what organizers of Refresh saw last month after the meeting. And here's what STC saw. And here's what UPA saw. It gives us instant feedback as to just how things went. I hope you'll be seeing more of these forms at more and more events. But if you go to an event and you don't have to fill one of them out, you should ask the organizer why not. Because don't they want to know what you think? Don't they want to know how you're doing? If you worked at a job that never gave you an annual review and then never gave you a raise, you wouldn't stay there very long. Hold your meetups accountable. Help them be the things you need them to be. All right, so that was the third thing, the feedback form. And now the fourth and final thing, the essay. So there's a new quarterly coming out. It's called Distance, right? Yes, it's called Distance. And it's for long-form writing about design. And all of the things I talked about tonight are really specific to Austin and to the local web community. And that's because I know how to tailor a talk to an audience. But all of these problems with people not showing up to meetups, and with meetups being held random times and places, and with organizers getting burned out, and with you not being supported professionally, and with it being hard to find a really good job when you want one, these are problems everywhere. And all of these things... What? Oh, sorry. These are problems with communities and Keynote, and meetups other than just design and web development. They're problems in cities other than Austin, too. These are social and cultural problems when it really comes down to it. So the editor of Distance asked me to write about this stuff, and I was just like, oh, well, wait a second, I just did the survey, and I could use real data, and that would be interesting, right? Instead of me just bullshitting things. So it turned out to be super depressing. Yeah, these are big problems. So I included ways to fix them, and that's what the essay is about. And this list of stuff tonight is like the local part of that. And the essay is the global part of that. So if you're interested in what you've talked about tonight, there's a couple days left to pre-order the first issue of Distance, which has the essay in it. And that would be cool too if you like, reading about depressing things. So all of these things, the feedback form and the survey, are now online at the Distance site for you and your meetup organizers to use, and they're all free. So order the issue, talk with your organizers, take the survey, that's the survey URL, fill out your feedback forms. If you go to a meetup that doesn't have feedback forms, complain, because why shouldn't they have feedback forms? And I hope 2012 gives you some of the best meetups you've attended in Austin since you started going to those kinds of things. Thanks for coming out tonight. I'm Vitorio, and @Moby is up next.